Old media and new media work together against lineal middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez. But first, thank you again for the support. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest boxing news. Old media's own Dan Rafael, notoriously known by being a biased writer that always talks in behalf of course, his personal opinion or the network that he works for every time he releases an article. Rafael says that Canelo Alvarez has been stripped of his WBC middleweight belt by the WBC and elevated to the WBC franchise champion by the World Boxing Council. But it's funny because Canelo Alvarez was never stripped. He was just elevated. He has to vacate his WBC strap. You know, I don't understand why Dan Rafael always do this type of thing. He always flip the story in his behalf to make the competition look awkward. He is notoriously known by doing this. And now new media follow up by saying the same exact word and actually publishing his article, like for example, new media's beloved boxing eagle, notoriously known by being an arch rival of Dan Rafael. He's now in conjunction and collaboration with Dan Rafael to just, dislike and hate Canelo Alvarez. But we all know, we, the real fans, we know that individuals like this are in somebody's pockets. Not only Ego and Dan Rafael, but plenty others. But it all the same to me. New media, old media equals fake media. Now, what's real is that Canelo Alvarez could end up being stripped by the IBF because he hasn't reached to a deal yet. He hasn't said that his next opponent. He hasn't picked opponent yet to unify titles, because we all remember that Canelo Alvarez goal after defeating Danny Jacobs was to unify and become undisputed at 160 pounds. But that hasn't been the case yet, and the IBF has declared that Canelo Alvarez was supposed to have a decision by June 15, or other than that, he would have to defend his title against Sergey Derevyanchenko, which nobody wants to watch. Now you got people like Ego Boxing talking about that Canelo doesn't want that fight because that's a risky, no reward fight. I mean, are you serious? Do you really think that's a risky fight for Canelo Alvarez? Man, cut it off. He also says that Canelo Alvarez is definitely ducking Demetrius Andrade and Charlo, that he does not want to fight the black tall fighters. But I don't get it, because Daniel Jacob was a black tall fighter with a lot of amateur experience, with a lot of power, and with the respect of the whole world. That tells you right there how biased these people are. Now it has also been reported the Kovalev offer to fight Canelo Alvarez was slightly increased, according to Mike Coppinger. We all talk about the Canelo Alvarez going to 175 pounds and becoming a so-called 4-division world champ. I'm gonna be honest with you, the fight, it sounds interesting. I truly believe it is a legacy fight. But in my personal opinion, I may be a big fan of boxing and Canelo Alvarez. I accept that. I'm not here to be biased. But the truth, and if I want to be truly unbiased, I really don't even think Canelo Alvarez is a full 3-division world champion as we speak right now, July 8th or 9th. I don't know what day it is. But the truth is that for me, he's nothing but the first contender, the mandatory to Callum Smith, to the real champion for the WBA at 168. Now, if he goes up to 175, of course Kovalev is the real champion. Of course it is a legacy fight. Of course I'm going to watch it. Of course I'm going to support my boy Canelo Alvarez. But I wouldn't consider him becoming a 4-division world champion until he beats a legitimate champion at 168 pounds. So, going back to the middleweight division, at the end of the day, we gotta remember what Canelo said. And Canelo hasn't done a lot of interviews, I understand that, but we gotta go by what he said, not by what all this fake media, old and new media, been saying. Canelo's goal was, he said himself, that he wants the biggest fight, that his goal is to unify the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. But the truth, in my personal opinion, the truth is that I don't think these middleweight clashes for the undisputed title are big enough yet. Same thing goes with Charlo. I think that's what the franchise belt was put into position, to give a chance to Charlo to become a superstar. Now, what I really think, and you may say, what does that have to do with Andrade and the IBF? Well, let me explain you. I think that in reality, I will have to say that in my personal opinion, I think that the IBF is simply got a little salty. And what do I mean by that? IBF was supposed to be the undisputed missing link to the undisputed belt. You understand? But when the WBC elevated Canelo Alvarez to the franchise status, then the IBF undisputed missing link lost its glamour. It really looks like the WBC wants to be that missing link to be captured at the end, to give it more glamour and more importance to the belt in the middleweight division. And I think that's the part that the IBF has a problem, because the IBF was supposed to be that missing link. We all know that the WBA is not gonna jeopardize anything that the WBC has going, because they get along pretty well. They are both the oldest organization of all four of them, and then the WBO. The WBO is whatever, whoever can have that belt. They do whatever they want. But the IBF does not play them games. They will strip, and they just gonna follow their rules, because their rules are very strict. It's not about them being on the way. It's, I think, about principles. I think they just felt like the WBC is trying to put them to the side, like they're not the importance. They don't play an importance in this tournament or in this belt collecting like the IBF or the WBC is above. We all know that the green belt WBC is the most respected belt of all organizations. And I think IBF is sick of that, because of all organizations, I think IBF is the more legit one, I will say. Or in real boxing terms, the less corrupted. We must also understand that networks will play a big factor into see who's gonna beat Canelo Alvarez's next opponent, because we must also remember that the zone, it will be looking into the most lucrative match that they can make, since their biggest start, or their second biggest start, Anthony Joshua, lost all their titles and most likely will lose again. So they must make all the revenue they can now. Perhaps the Zone thinks that Kovalev is known very well by the casual fans because of his pay-per-view fights against Andre Ward, in which both fights ended like classic fights. And that will be the reason which I believe a fight in between Canelo Alvarez and Sergey Kovalev will be a bigger fight than a fight against Andrade and a fight against Charlo. Now we also gotta remember the pay-per-view versus that DAZN. I think the Golden Boy is really starting to look the difference of not being able of charging people $70-$80 to see his fighter fight. And he actually is taking big fights like the one with Danny Jacob. That was a risky fight. A fight against Andrade, that would be a big fight. A fight against Kovalev, that would be a big fight. These are all risky fights. It may not be the fight that we please the most, but they still risky fights. And I think Golden Boy is getting sick of that, of having to have his most valuable fighter fighting risky fight after risky fight and charging the customer on nothing but $20 for these events. This is a quick prediction for me, and note it down tonight, today, whatever time you're watching this. I said it before anybody else. And the truth is that I think in my mind and in my heart, truly, the Golden Boy, Oscar de la Hoya, and Incorporated will make changes soon, and I think they will leave that fight. So when they finish their contract with the DAZN, I think they will leave that fight and will end up making that a pay-per-view fight. Because like I've been saying throughout my videos, I think Charlo truly has all the potential to become this big star like Wilder is, but he needs more time, and I think Golden Boy knows this. I think Charlo knows this deep in his heart, and that's why he's being so humble about the whole situation. Ultimately, in my personal opinion, Canelo Alvarez is 28 years old. If for whatever reason he doesn't become undisputed today, he will become undisputed tomorrow. Thank you for watching.